It all began innocently enough. I had no reason to suspect anything unusual when she packed her suitcase for the weekend trip to Miami. Emily, my wife of 6 years, was attending her best friend Natalie's bachelorette party. We'll just drink cocktails, go to the beach, and have fun. It's just 2 days. Nothing crazy, she reassured me with a smile as she zipped up her bag. I nodded, happy that she was getting a break from work, though I could feel a knot in my stomach. She had always been the life of the party, and I knew this trip was important for her, especially since it was for Natalie, her closest friend. There was no reason to feel insecure about it, or so I thought, as the days passed. As my life continued, and I kept myself busy with work. But the moment Emily came back, I noticed something wasn't right. At first, I couldn't put my finger on it. She seemed off. She was quieter than usual, distracted, and kept to herself more. I thought it was the exhaustion from the trip, or maybe the stress of returning to work. That evening, she sat on the couch beside me, scrolling through her phone. Her posture seemed tense, her usual spark of energy absent. Then it happened. Her phone buzzed, and she instantly grabbed it, flipping it over on the table, hiding the screen from my view. A laugh, almost too nervous, escaped her lips. "It's just my friend," she said quickly, her voice a bit too high-pitched. "Too eager?" I asked. "Who's that?" She shrugged it off, saying she was just still in vacation mode. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time, but something inside me shifted. The feeling that she was hiding something stuck with me. As the week went on, Emily's behavior only became stranger. She was more jittery, avoiding conversations, and even skipped out on our usual evening walks. I thought I was imagining things. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks. But a part of me knew that something wasn't right. I couldn't shake the feeling. It wasn't long before the first real sign of trouble appeared. I was looking for my car keys one morning when I realized they were missing. I had left them on the kitchen counter the night before, and they were nowhere to be found. Thinking nothing of it, I went to Emily's purse, hanging by the door. As I reached in, I found the keys. But what caught my eye was a small receipt that fell out from under the keys. It was from a tattoo studio in Miami, a place I didn't remember hearing her mention. I glanced at the dates. The same weekend she had been away. My stomach twisted. I knew she had gone out for fun, but why would she go to a tattoo studio on a bachelorette trip? When Emily returned, I tried to remain calm. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But as soon as she saw the receipt in my hand, her face changed. She stammered, "Oh, Natalie dared me to get a small tattoo. It's no big deal, Ryan." But something in her voice made me pause. She looked uncomfortable, like she was trying to sell me a lie I didn't want to buy. I asked her to show me the tattoo. She hesitated, but then lowered the waistband of her jeans, revealing a small heart on her hip. At first, I saw nothing unusual, but as I examined it closer, something caught my eye. A small letter R inside the heart. My heart sank. The tattoo wasn't for me. It was for someone else. It was for Richard. "Who is Richard?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled nervously, and the words that followed didn't make sense. "It's nothing. Just a little gesture. I thought it would be cute for you." "Ryan, it's really no big deal." I forced a smile, but inside, my world felt like it was crumbling. Why would she hide this from me? I had to know more. But how? I couldn't confront her yet. There had to be more to this story. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The feeling in the pit of my stomach was unbearable. There were too many small details that didn't add up. Too many changes in Emily's behavior that I couldn't brush off. Something was wrong, and I had to know what it was. My instincts were screaming at me, but I was afraid of what I might find. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. Emily had become more distant, almost robotic in her responses. She had started scrolling through her phone late at night, which was odd for her. She had always been the kind of person who shut off her phone before bed, prioritizing our relationship. But now she was glued to the screen, laughing nervously at something I couldn't see. And when I would reach for her hand or try to kiss her, she'd pull away with an excuse. I'm too tired or I'm stressed out. The red flags were there. But I couldn't bring myself to confront her. I kept telling myself it was nothing, that I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. The seed of doubt had already been planted, and I couldn't shake it. That evening, it all came to a head. Emily had gone out for a walk, leaving me alone in the house. I decided to clean up the kitchen while I waited for her to return. As I walked past the coat rack by the door, I noticed her purse hanging there. Without thinking, I reached inside. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just the car keys, since she had borrowed my car earlier in the day. But when I opened the purse, something else caught my eye. A small, crumpled receipt from a Miami tattoo studio. My heart skipped a beat. The date on the receipt matched the weekend she had been in Miami for Natalie's Bachelorette party. I stared at it for a moment, feeling my breath catch in my throat. Why would she go to a tattoo studio? I never heard her mention getting a tattoo when she came back home. I didn't say anything at first. I just kept the receipt in my pockets, trying to stay calm. But the look in her eyes when she saw me holding it gave everything away. She didn't know how to explain herself, and I knew I had to confront her. I sat her down and showed her the receipt. Emily, what's this? Why did you get a tattoo in Miami? I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. Her face immediately went pale. She stammered for a moment before finally speaking. Oh, Natalie dared me to get one. She explained, her voice shaky. It's no big deal, Ryan. But I wasn't convinced. It was more than just a random act. There was something deeper, something she wasn't telling me. What kind of tattoo? I asked, my tone growing more suspicious. She hesitated for a moment, then reluctantly pulled down the waistband of her jeans, revealing a small heart tattoo near her hip. It seemed innocent enough at first, until I saw the tiny letter R etched into the middle of the heart. My heart sank. That wasn't for me. It was for someone else. I couldn't breathe. Who is Emily? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She forced a nervous smile. It's nothing, Ryan. It's just a cute gesture. A joke, she said. But there was no mistaking it. I could see it in her eyes. The guilt, the avoidance, the pit in my stomach deepened. The lies had begun, and I wasn't sure how deep they went. I couldn't let this slide. I had to know more. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the tattoo. I decided to dig deeper. I felt like a fool, but I had to get to the truth. Emily was in the shower when I took the opportunity to check her phone. I wasn't proud of it, but I had to know if there was more to this story than she was telling me. As soon as I unlocked her phone, I noticed the message notification on the screen. The name Megan appeared. My heart raced. I hadn't heard her mention anyone named Megan, especially not someone she would be texting while I was sitting right next to her. I hesitated, but my curiosity got the better of me. I opened the message. I want to meet you again. The message read. I felt my world tilt. My stomach churned as I read those words. This wasn't just a harmless message from a friend. This was something deeper, something intimate. I wasn't imagining it anymore. This was real. I quickly copied the number. Heart pounding in my chest. I knew it wasn't enough to just find this one message. I needed to know who this person was, who Emily was hiding from me. I had to confront her with the truth. But first, I had to be sure. That evening, while Emily was making dinner, I decided to take the plunge. I called the number. A man answered. My pulse quickened as I tried to keep my voice steady. Hi, I'm looking for Megan, I said, the words barely escaping my lips. There was a pause. The man's voice came through, flat and uninterested. There's no Megan here. Man, you've got the wrong number. I hung up, my mind racing. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't a woman named Megan. It was a man named Richard. The realization hit me like a freight train. I didn't want to believe it. But it was clear now. Emily had been hiding an affair with Richards, and I had just uncovered it. Later that night, when Emily was fast asleep on the couch, I took the opportunity to check her phone again. This time, I wasn't just looking for clues. I was looking for the truth. I scrolled through her messages and found a conversation with Richard, hidden in the archive. My hands trembled as I read the texts, the pain cutting deeper with every word. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. One message read. I stared at it, my heart pounding in my chest. But it didn't stop there. The messages grew more intimate, more personal. Emily had told Richard that she couldn't stop thinking about him, that she felt paralyzed by her feelings for him. It wasn't just a fling. It wasn't just a one-night mistake. It was an affair. My blood ran cold as I scrolled through the images and videos she had sent him. Private, intimate moments. They were together in ways that I had never imagined, ways I couldn't unsee. I sat there, staring at the screen, my mind reeling, everything I thought I knew, everything I had believed about our marriage was a lie. And that tattoo, the R wasn't for me, it was for Richard. I couldn't stay in this world of lies any longer. It was time to act. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. My entire world, the life I thought I knew, had been a lie. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, had betrayed me in ways I couldn't have imagined. As I sat there, staring at her messages with Richard, a chilling numbness began to settle over me. The pain was unbearable, but I couldn't let it consume me. I had to move forward. I had to take control of this situation. The anger I felt was overwhelming, but more than that, I felt a deep sense of betrayal, as if the ground beneath me had just cracked wide open. The woman I had committed my life to, the woman I had promised to love and cherish, had chosen to be with someone else. I knew what I had to do next. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I wasn't going to sit here and let her destroy everything we had built together. The truth was too much to ignore any longer. It was time for action. I gathered all the evidence, every text, every photo, every video. I transferred everything to my phone. The images of them together, the explicit messages, the confession of feelings, every single thing that proved what she had done, what she had taken from me. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. With shaking hands, I deleted Richard's conversation from her phone. I didn't want her to know I had discovered the truth, but I needed to make sure she couldn't manipulate the situation further. I had to have the upper hand. I needed to protect myself, and I needed to expose the truth to everyone. The next morning, I made the call. I contacted my lawyer, setting up an appointment as soon as possible. I wasn't wasting time. I wanted a divorce. And I wanted to make sure I had everything in place to protect my assets. I had worked too hard for everything. I had to let her take it all from me. I had to make sure she couldn't destroy my life any further. The lawyer's office felt cold and sterile, but it was a necessary step. I wasn't here for sympathy or to beg for answers. I was here to ensure I was protected. The divorce would be finalized quickly, and I was going to make sure that Emily wouldn't get away with what she had done. I left the office with a renewed sense of clarity. I wasn't going to let my emotions cloud my judgment. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about standing up for myself, about not letting her have the power anymore. When I returned home that evening, I could hear her moving around in the house. She was in the kitchen, humming a tune, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit her. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence settle within. Then I took a deep breath and walked into the kitchen. "Emily," I said, my voice calm but steady. She turned around, her smile fading when she saw the seriousness in my expression. "What's going on, Ryan?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't say anything. Instead, I handed her the phone. She looked at it, her face going pale as she started scrolling through the images. The texts, the videos. Her betrayal was laid out in front of her, undeniable and raw. "I can explain," she stammered, her voice faltering as she looked up at me, her eyes brimming with tears. "No, you can't," I replied coldly, cutting her off. "There's nothing left to explain. You've been lying to me for months, Emily. You've been with him, not me. This whole marriage, it's been a lie." Her hands shook as she tried to reach out to me. "Please, Ryan, I didn't mean for this to happen. It was a mistake. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking clearly." "Stop," I said, my voice hardening. "You don't get to use that excuse. You slept with him twice. You even got a tattoo for him. You lied to my face every day. And now you want to say it was a mistake. You don't get to play the victim here." She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. But I couldn't feel sorry for her anymore. The woman who stood before me was not the woman I had once loved. She had betrayed me in ways I couldn't even begin to comprehend, and I was done with it. I filed for divorce, I said flatly, as the weight of those words settled in. "I've already contacted a lawyer. I'm taking everything I've worked for. You won't get a cent from me. Emily and everyone, our friends, our family, they all know the truth now. They know exactly who you are." Her face turned white as a sheet, the shock evident in her eyes. "You can't do this," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You can't take everything from me." I stood up, walking toward the door. "You did this, Emily. You made your choices, and now you'll have to live with the consequences. Don't try to make me the bad guy. You're the one who destroyed everything we had." I left her there, standing in the kitchen, her sobs echoing through the house. I had no more tears to shed for her. I had no more pity, no more sympathy. The woman I had trusted with my heart was gone, replaced by a stranger who had stolen my peace of mind. The divorce was finalized quickly, as expected. Emily's family and friends, the evidence. And they were just as shocked as I had been. They tried to reach out to her, but she had no one left to turn to. I was surrounded by support. My friends, my family, they all had my back. And as much as I hated what had happened, I knew it was the right decision. In the months that followed, the pain began to fade. The memories of Emily, of our life together, began to blur into the background. It was hard at first, but I grew stronger. With each passing day, I had faced the worst of it and had come out the other side, not unscathed, but wiser. And through it all, I realized something important, that even in the darkest moments of my life, I was never truly alone. I had my friends, I had my family, and most importantly, I had myself. The truth had set me free, and with that freedom, I could finally move on. As for Emily, she became a distant memory, a part of my past I had to let go of. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I thought I loved, was gone, and I was left with a life to rebuild. A life I would make my own. Without her, the pain faded, the anger subsided, and I moved on, stronger, wiser, ready for whatever the future had in store for me.